You have SR and ED. What is that on a general snapshot?
Yeah, so that's the scientific research and experimental development tax credit. That is a tax credit for technical that people are doing, or companies are doing for R&D. So basically, if they have an R&D arm, an R&D department, or even if it's a smaller company, but they're building a prototype of some sort for, a rig or, an extension of a rig or so on, they're able to apply for either a refund, which is really good, and that's one of the most popular programs, the SR&ED program, and that's why there's 67% of people
Yeah, I
that
was
or
noticing it's so
companies
much
that use it.
higher.
That is the highest one.
Yeah.
So this is out of the KPMG Canadian Manufacturers Outlook, and obviously KPMG we have a lot of thought leadership, but that is one of the ones that we sort of heavily rely on. um, we go out and we interview manufacturing companies all across Canada and globally, and then we identify. So on the R&D front, and there was actually just one release, the CEO one released a couple of weeks ago. But we're looking at, so as an R&D company, or if you consider yourself as doing any kind of R&D, what are you doing? Like, how much are you doing? Are you accessing some of these incentive programs? What do you plan to do? What are you doing now? And what are you planning to do? So the SR&ED one obviously being one of the most effective ones and one of the most popular ones. And then, like I mentioned, definitely for this space is the apprenticeship tax credits, which are anything that is ITA related. I know that ITA has released some new apprenticeships. Hairdressers, I think, are now involved as well, or part of that. So hairdresser outfit, again, if it's just a company that's, 5, 6 people, they can also claim an apprenticeship tax if they have a hairdresser that is going through a program that's an
Right.
official ITA program.
That's an official.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to this SR and ED, I want to jump over to, I think it's actually page 5, I think. If that Now, if it's not making sense where I'm going with this, just tell me, no, we have to go back
It's
to make
okay.
this.
No
But
worries.
so under this, yeah, yep, that one. And so there's advanced manufacturing, agri-food, health biosciences, clean technology, digital industries, resources of the future. Now, does all that, now is there now is that connected to the SR and ED?
SR&ED, yeah.
Yeah,
So the SR&ED program is industry agnostic. So anybody in any company in any sort of area in Canada
right.
and provincially is able to access it as long as they meet the criteria. So the criteria is that there needs to be some obviously technically or technological or science based behind
Right.
the work that they're doing. So, a very easy example is, car manufacturers right now, everybody has a red color. They're all red. If you're going to come up with a red color and somebody else is going to come up with a red color, well, that's kind of known, right? Like a lot of people are doing that, the pigmentation behind it, the coloring behind it, the drying effect, and all sorts of stuff. That's really known. So that's kind of available in the public domain. If you're a hobby car person as well, then you can go online and read, okay, well, I want to paint it, I need to prime it, I need to sand it, I need to do all
Mm-hmm.
these kinds of things. But now let's take that knowledge a little bit outside of the box, and let's say, I want my red car to turn into a blue-purple color at 12 o'clock during the day, every day. So how does that work? Okay, well, now I need to investigate and go behind the experimentation piece that is
Mm-hmm.
needed, sort of like, okay, the sanding piece may be a little bit different. Now I need to put an undercoat of X or Y, but maybe this undercoat doesn't work. Maybe I need a liquid one. Is there a temperature measurement that is required? And how is that going to be automatic? And so now you're getting a little bit more into, okay, I'm outside of that comfort technological knowledge of, okay, it's just a red car, to now trying to increase your technological knowledge and be innovative
Mm-hmm.
in that space.
Mm.
So that's those are the ones you build prototypes, then you experiment through it. You have a plan as to how you're going to undertake that experimentation, and then you come up with your advancement that perhaps nobody else has, but this is key and unique to you, and you have come up with some scientific or technological knowledge behind that work.
So is this R&D, I mean, we're talking about research and development. So if you're wanting to take your car and be able to change colors in midday, which now I want, um, if you have that, you're just trying to figure out how to do it. Is it available for just trying to figure it out, or do you have to have made some advancement in that lane to be
Yeah.
able to get it?
So the advancement must be incremental, as small as it could be. So you're going to learn no matter what, right?
Mhm.
So in the process of experimenting to achieve that goal of the difference in color at a specific time with specific parameters, in the process of that, you had learned some things. The undercoat maybe doesn't work. The specific temperature with the solar energy may not be specifically to what you need. Okay, well now I need to do it, and it could be failure. Like you could fail, and that's okay for the SR&ED program. You're
Okay.
increasing your technological knowledge.
Okay, so basically, well, you can't just be like, I want decide to do this without actually researching in ahead of time to know that these are the things that I will require to research eventually.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to have a
Got it.
plan, or what
Okay.
the CRA calls a systematic investigation,
Right.
which just means that you do have a plan as to how you're going to take that experimentation.
Right.
Okay.
But if you fail, it's not it
Correct.
doesn't
Right.
it's not like you're having to send the money back or something like
Correct.
that.
No.
Yeah. And then okay, and so I actually I'm glad I have that clarification, because
Yeah.
now I want to go into the industry and to sort of, if we could sort of dig into the examples under that R&D banner. So an advanced manufacturing. What's an advanced? I mean, it's written there, but what would be an example of advanced manufacturing?
Airspace,
Airspace.
right? So we're trying to, I think I just heard that we got a large, or Victoria Viking, I think, just got a large CRJ, I believe it was, contract. And so they're obviously trying to increase their um, not only their R&D but also their resources and whatnot. So that may be under advanced manufacturing. Aluminum, so aluminum, steel, any of those industries that are really manufacturing sector. There is a clean technology specifically, but you could be a manufacturer to all of these other ones as well,
Oh, I see.
right?
Right.
So advanced manufacturing would actually cover it sort of. Is it almost umbrella to a lot of these?
No, it's not an umbrella, but the economy strategy. Let's kind of back up a bit.
Okay.
So the economic strategy tables were really developed through the federal government, and what the federal government said is, we have all of these companies across Canada. They really should all fit within, some tables or some specific categories. And so what they came up with was the economic strategy tables.
Hmm.
And so if you are applying for any funding, so grants, repayable contributions, or whatever, the applications now all require you to identify which table you fall under.
Hmm.
And so if you're an aerospace, for example, manufacturer, if you're oil and gas, if you're whatnot, you could hit one or more of these. You have your primarily one.
Hmm.
So going back to the aerospace, you could be, advanced manufacturer in the primarily one, but perhaps you have some digital response or a digital
Mm.
project that's coming up that really is key on the digital side of it. So even though your main business would be advanced manufacturing, the project itself is really speaking to the digital industries piece.
Right.
And so these would be available in most of the applications that we're seeing lately from the federal government.
So, apologies if it's a very rough example, but if you're in the aerospace and you like aerospace, so we can stay on that for a bit. If you are in that space, so you've increased your orders or your workload, so you want to expand and you want to expand with updated technology to increase your efficiency. So that would sort of go under the advanced manufacturing. Now, if you're wanting to implement some sort of monitoring technology that helps not only increase the efficiency on this side, but you want to, identify issues before they become issues, that would probably fall under the digital industries,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be. Yeah, and it's just a matter of choosing one or the other, or whichever ones it is in the funding application.
Now, can you be funded? But you can be funded for both if you're expanding your manufacturing here, but also upgrading the monitoring technology? Could you
You
get
could
both?
be, yeah, you could be. It's not one or the other. So
Right.
it just gives an idea to the government. And I think it's also for statistics as well. So who is submitting these applications? Do we have more advanced manufacturing companies trying to access the funds, or is it more on the digital side? So they will look at the application and they will identify that.
Right.
I couldn't say that it would be one or the other.
Right. But it could be both.
Correct.
It
Yeah.
could happen.
Could you get like blacklisted from applying to any grants?
That's a good question. I don't know that blacklist would be the word.
They'd use a nicer word.
I know.
Same thing, nicer word.
I guess.
No, I don't think so. I think that that would be in the government's worst interest to do that.
Yeah.
I think that if companies are having trouble, they could either phone the specific office that is working with the fund, or they can phone us or whatnot. But I don't think that that would be the case.
So if you made a mistake, like you just did something on the application that was just wrong, which I'm sure companies have done,
Yeah.
do you have an opportunity to correct it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very open, right? So you submit your application, you can email, and now email is great. And so then you can email one of the fund officers, or the fund has a general mailbox where you can email and say,
Okay.
oh, I submitted this, I should have said this, or whatnot. There's some that don't allow that, but that is just because of the volume that they are receiving.
Something that stands out to me with this, manufacturing or like agri-food and coupled with that digital and being able to apply for both is because we've had a lot of, especially lately, we have a lot of guests that are talking about, sensor-based technology, which the manufacturers don't it can be added to a pre-manufactured product. And I do wonder, especially on these, again, these 200 or less employees, these smaller operations, I wonder if they miss out on realizing that some of this digital advancement that they could make to make them a lot more competitive, I wonder how many of them are missing. And I'm sure you don't have those, stats readily available. But just I get a sense from talking to people in the industry, there is some disconnect with companies not realizing some of what is available.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we do see it. This shouldn't really be a showstopper when you're trying to apply for funding. The funding, something to keep in mind is that the funding is available to everyone. So whether you're a not-for-profit company, whether you're First Nations, whether you're women-led, whether you're a corporation, whether you're a small business, whether you're a young entrepreneur, there's funding available for everyone.
Right.
And so I wouldn't consider that this would be sort of a showstopper when you apply and you submit your application and you sort of mark down the incorrect one, as long as your project does have some good meat to it.
Yeah, let's go into so like Agri-Food. What would be an example of where that R&D funding or SR&ED, you call it SR&ED, right?
SR&ED.
SR&ED?
Yeah. SR&ED.
What would be an example where that would fit in for Agri-Food?
So we are seeing quite a bit of the productivity improvement, right? In, for example, farming. And so farmers are always trying to identify how do we remove pests as quickly as possible, or identify pests before they even occur. Is there any technology out there that could help out with that? And so various ways of farmers or food manufacturers to bring in digital technology within their sort of otherwise older industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, but older as in, it's not sort of a tech firm.
Right.
But definitely including some of that into their R&D. And now they're getting teams into, so how do we do it? And how do we find out? So they're hiring people that are obviously have that biotech or agri background, but that may also have some IT or technology education, so that they can help them with that.
Right. Health and biosciences. I love these ones where I read it out, and as I read it, I go, "Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know much about this." So this.
Think about wearables. So health and bio, right? Like there's a lot of wearables. Like now you can prick yourself and find like a ton of things from one drop of blood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not everything, but they are looking at tremendous advancements in the medical health space, trying to help doctors. So how do I assess someone now? The interview with a doctor online is really more common than it used to be before. But definitely looking at that piece of the health. How do we keep seniors sort of alive longer with a better quality of life? And what does that mean? Does that mean that they're wearable materials for, an IoT? So IoT is huge in that as well, because they could be sitting in a chair, they stand up from the chair. Oh, the chair identifies that they're not sitting anymore. It sends an alarm. An alarm goes to whoever the caregiver is. They can come in. There's access to their wherever they're sitting. Maybe it's a code that they put in. So there's quite a bit of technology going into the health space.
Right. So that IoT and then you've got. I want to get down to the resources, but we talked a little bit about digital, but clean technology. Um, Again, this seems like something that would just. It seems like something that could be in agri-food or it could be in manufacturing. It sort of could be in multiple things. Is that right, or is this specific to a? Is this like could it be clean energy or clean technology for energy, or is this
Absolutely.
or is it a broad term?
It's a little bit broad, but right now, the latest one is the government providing some funding for people purchasing uh, Tesla vehicles or hydro vehicles or whatnot, right? And so, what the government is really looking at, okay, so would that mean transportation is going to become a lot more clean? So, SkyTrain, buses, what can we do to then help that and become, less carbon, less fuel, less diesel, and all sorts of things? So, that could be in there as well. Mining, oil, sort of definitely could fit into that for some of the practices that they're doing now at the
Right.
mine site. So obviously the health of the workers down in the mine is very key and critical. So that how do we help them achieve any sort of clean technology that could be available for them to work in a better, cleaner environment?
So, okay, so this is where I would need clarification on something. Like, so clean technology. So you say a mining. Now, if you're a mine that's switching over to electric powered heavy equipment, which is a major shift for those companies, in both the way they operate and the way
Mm-hmm.
they spend their dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Does that now? There's not really an R&D because if a company has already manufactured
That's
that
correct.
product, would it fall under the R&D?
There could no,
No, it
no,
wouldn't.
it wouldn't. But there are some funding programs available that are very much geared to clean technology.
Okay.
And so then it may not be that someone on the agri-food can access them, but the clean tech space could. And again, it's just a matter of you choosing in your application which sort of fit you would have the best. It's not like one or the other, or it wouldn't be wrong. It's just where you see yourself or the project fitting
Right.
in the
So
category.
so it might not go in the R&D space, but now it goes into the
Correct.
which
Into
one?
an other funding,
Yeah.
just other funding available.
Right. And so then resources of the future, that goes into mining, energy, and I remember we talked off screen that could go oil and gas, can
That's
go up into
right.
the clean technology. Clean technology
Exactly.
can go into mining. It all can go. It's so much
Absolutely.
crisscross.
Yeah.
But what would be examples of within this resource of the future? What would be an example of
Yeah,
that?
so there's quite a bit of, again, we go back into that sort of crossover of digital.
Yeah.
So, and I think this has been announced, but there's quite a few mining companies, or I know a couple of mining companies that have now sensors in their buckets.
Yeah.
And so they can identify how much of each of the minerals, metals, whatever it is that they're digging for is in that bucket,
Yeah.
which means an increase in revenue or a potential increase in revenue because they know on time, real time, what they have in there.
Yeah.
So a project could be, okay, the integration of this in a lower scale, in a larger scale, or maybe a subset of that. So even though when you're applying, you can say, okay, well, I'm a mining company and this is what I'm doing. So I'm really the researchers of the future. The project that you have may be a little bit of a crossover into digital because now you're including or involving that digital piece into your mining operation.
Right. Now I'm threading the needle a little bit on this, but if now, because we've had the sensor technology, we've had multiple people. Brent Hilscher's actually, he's been on
Mm.
the show twice,
Yep.
and he's so popular that
Yeah.
he's coming on again in a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
he puts together. He's an engineer who puts together the sensors on the buckets and on the ore processing and that. So I just wanted the clarity of if you're a mining company who's going to put that sensor. Now it's a third party company who's developed that technology.
Yep.
They've proven it. Now the mining company says, or the energy company, or whatever industry they're in, or an agriculture company says, okay, we're going to take this sensor, and this company is telling us it's proven, but now we have to actually invest in it and test it on us. That would go under R&D because
It
it hasn't
could.
worked for you yet. Is
It
that right?
could.
It
It
could.
could.
Yeah.
It could
Huh.
up to the point where it works. And if it works, then you don't have a claim or you don't have an R&D. But
Up to the point where it
Right.
works. So, and then if it works, then if you've increased your efficiency, then you and lessened your environmental footprint, then you can move into other grants once you've showcased that this.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,